All right, good morning, everyone. We are so happy that you are joining us today on the last day of conference, and we're happy that you decided to come to our session, which is Unicorns Among Us, Fostering Unique Diversity in Animal Welfare. I am Dawn Binion-Stewart, and I am the DEIB Director at Best Friends Animal Society.
And I am Dr. Aziza Glass, veterinarian and owner of Calm Veterinary Hospital. That's what CALM stands for. It's a long acronym. In Houston, Texas, and we are both from Houston.
Woo!
You're looking at two hurricane survivors now.
Yes.
We made it all the way just to talk to you, so thank you for being here with us because we made the effort to be here for you.
And so I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Glass when we were, the DIB team was putting together our cultural celebration for Black History Month. And during that time, she shared a presentation that was called A Legacy of Unicorns. And A Legacy of Unicorns really highlighted the unsung Black heroes and animal advocates that really deeply impacted Dr. Glass's life.
These unsung heroes really helped and shaped the veterinarian that I am today. Animal welfare and veterinary medicine is inherently a non-diverse space. So in order to get from point A to point B, you're not gonna have, at least for myself and for many who look like me, you're not gonna have the same level of accessibility and resources. So my journey and path to becoming a veterinarian was not a straight one. It was a very winding path. With unexpected turns, some ducking, some jumping through hoops, but it shaped who I am today. It allowed me to cultivate a lot of different gifts and talents that I had, and interests that I had, and made me a well-rounded veterinarian that you see.
And so Dr. Glass's presentation really deeply impacted me. And I don't know if you guys can tell or not, I may be a little older than Dr. Glass. I'm from Generation X. And when I grew up, I wanted to be a pet doctor, but I didn't see images of me in that space. And I wasn't pushed by my parents or my family or my village to do so. What they did was push me to be a teacher. And what I ended up being, I was a teacher for about 5 or 6 years, and I ended up finally getting back into getting to the space of animal welfare. And by her being able to do something that was my dream and seeing being surrounded by those mentors, it really we really sparked the idea about let's do something about the unicorns among us so that other people can be inspired to do things.
All right. Okay, so, there we go.
Yeah. And so in this session, we aim to illuminate not just the beauty, not just the importance of diversity, but also the beauty and necessity of it. Diversity in our field is rare like a unicorn, right? It's not that evident, it's not that seen. And so when we encounter unique perspectives, they have the potential to transform our teams and our work.
Absolutely, Dawn. So what our goal for today's session is to help you see how impactful having diverse perspectives and viewpoints in your organization can not only enhance your organization, but likewise enhance the community engagement that being a rescue organization and animal welfare encompasses, and also help you to enhance your organization to find those unicorns that currently exist within your team. And they come in many shapes and forms, and we're going to discuss all of that.
And so throughout our session, if you couldn't tell by now, we tend to engage with each other, right? And so what our expectation is for you all to engage with us as well. And so this is unlike the other rooms where we have I don't know what it's called, the square, that goes around and for you all to speak. We only have a mic in the middle. So we're hoping when we have our interactive activities and discussions for you to go to the mic so that we can engage and have your feedback and your things that you have gone through.
So let's get ready to dive into these learning objectives. We promise that we are not going to harp on diversity like we're on a soapbox at a very surface level. We promise that we are going to explore the deeper meaning of it and also provide some clear, actionable steps that you can implement both in the short and long term in order to enhance your organization and find those different perspectives, find those innovative ways of problem solving and thinking.
So now that we set the stage, let's dive into what we hope that you take away from this. First, we want to help you recognize and appreciate the unique diversity within your teams. Understanding that different backgrounds and perspectives is the first step to truly having an inclusive environment.
Our second objective is going to focus on understanding how diverse perspectives are going to impact your problem solving and innovation. Diverse teams are like a mosaic. So think about those beautiful Monet's, was it Starry Night?
Yes.
That's the name of it, right?
Yes, that's it.
And when you look up close, it just looks like smears, right? But when you step back, you see the beautiful masterpiece that it is. And so that's the impact that diverse teams can have in your organization. And we want you to not only think about what we're talking about, but also get those gears turning in your mind about similar scenarios that might have happened in the past or what you might even predict could happen in the future for your organization.
And next, we're going to discuss actionable strategies to foster inclusivity. It's not enough to recognize diversity. We need to actively create environments where people feel valued and heard.
And finally, we are going to encourage you to have a cultural shift within your organization. This is not a one-time effort. Whenever you are trying to build and develop a work culture and environment, you have to unlearn habits and create new ones. So this is not something that you're going to be able to take back to your organization and do in like 1 week. This is something that is going to be happening in phases. But by doing so, it's going to essentially become a part of the DNA of your organization. And we know that there are unique qualities that exist in every single organization, and sometimes they go essentially squandered and overlooked and underutilized. So by us kind of planting these seeds in your mind, we're hoping that you'll be able to maximize all the different gifts and skill sets that you have in your organizations, and maybe even get you thinking a different way on how you recruit and how you build your team in the future. Okay, so,
So, Dr. Glass, why do you think unicorns and animal welfare are important?
So I mentioned earlier how in veterinary medicine, I'll speak more toward that because that is my profession. It is not, it is inherently historically the least diverse healthcare profession in the country. I don't know if any of y'all knew that, but that is one of its bragging rights. And, but because of that, animal welfare and even veterinary medicine is a part of the intersection between environmental health, public health, and animal welfare, animal health. Public health is not a monolith. It is diverse. So if your organization, who is supposed to be interacting with the public, is not as well, then you essentially are building into your organization areas of disparity, okay? There are going to be blind spots if you only have one way of thinking, if you're only thinking about one particular way to approach the public, because the public is going to be very diverse in not only how they look, their socioeconomic background, generational, and even religious and more. So the benefits of these unicorns is that they're able to come into your organization and kind of spice it up, add a little flavor, add some rainbows, add some glitter. There may be some problems that you have always treated the exact same way in your organization, and maybe you thought that was successful, and then somebody new comes in with a fresh pair of eyes, a fresh pair of ideas, and all of a sudden now it is streamlined and you increase your efficiency 30%. Maybe it helps your bottom line. But all these things also relies on you being open-minded, being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and also not having judgment, really encouraging and fostering that safe space for these people who are unicorns. So remember, they already know that they are not the norm. They already know that they kind of stand out, and giving them the space to be all that they can be, because they are there because they are passionate, and they hopefully have the same core values that you have for your organization.
So now let's embark on discovering the unicorns within your own team. So what we want you to do is imagine your team as a tapestry woven with the diverse threads. And so what we want you to do is actually partner up with your neighbor and reflect and discuss your unique qualities within your team or of a team member that you have. And then, okay.
And let's also remember that one person's experience is not going to overwhelm or mitigate another's. There is something that we can always learn from every single experience, because I always say my time is too valuable for it to be wasted. So I always strive to find some type of learning opportunity in every experience, whether it's good or bad.
All right, so we're going to give you a couple of minutes to talk amongst yourself and share your insights and celebrate the unicorns within your teams.
When you share these insights, please go to the microphone.
I've been on the team with both of them.
Oh, okay.
Case study stuff.
All right, so if we could have a few people go to the microphone and share some of the unique qualities of their team members.
Okay, I had a discussion with two gentlemen. Two of us are from Texas, one from North Carolina, and Dallas here in East Texas. We both, or all three of us really, were commenting they have different perspectives because they're men in animal welfare, and as we all know, mostly it's women. And then we also discussed or we started discussing, but didn't get very far, on how do we tap into other cultures and things like that. And one thing I was getting ready to say, but I didn't get to, is I live in South Dallas, which is multicultural. And so one thing I think we can do is get into more community outreach. So, and we need more leaders for that. So.
Love that.
Okay, love it. Thank you. Can you please come to the mic? We're asking you to come to the mic because it's also being streamed, and so we have an audience that wants to be able to see you, see who's asking the question.
Hi, my name's Shalilan. In the group that I was with, we talked about the different perspectives in age and then also professional backgrounds. And one of the people that was in my group, in her area, it's like a suburb of like Tampa and Orlando. And so people have kind of gotten tired of the commute, and they've been able to really expand like their donors because there's people coming from different professions. And then in my role, I do the community engagement, and I used to work in public health and research. And so to my Life Saving Center, we're doing a lot more data tracking and a lot more really structured planning to be proactive instead of reactive.
I love that. I love that.
Anyone else?
We can take one more, or we can go on and move to the next slide. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. Do it. Oh, wait. Oh, goodness.
Maybe we won't. It's not working. Well, how are y'all?
Oh, there we go. Okay. I did something. Yay, I fixed it. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about a couple of instances where diversity and inclusion definitely impacted a couple of cases for me. So as a fresh grad from Cornell Vet School, I was working at a hospital. There were people who were obviously the senior vets. They had been working for, we'll say, 20 plus years of experience. We had a dog that had a case of happy tail. Does anybody know happy tail? Yeah, they're just so happy to keep on injuring themselves, right? So it can be one of the most frustrating things to treat. It seems like it's a never-ending problem. And when I saw this, it was my first case. I don't even think I had a case of happy tail when I was in school. So when I saw the case of the happy tail, nobody had a solution for me because they all had the same experience as all of you. But I was young, I mean, I'm still young, but younger, and I love the environment, so I'm always thinking about how to use recycled material, stuff that I feel like is just a waste that we're just throwing out. And I remember one day just taking a look, and I happened to see the case that a 12cc syringe came out of. You know what I'm talking about? And so I looked at it, and I was just handling it, and then I said, huh. I went to get a saw, the same saw that we use in order to cut down our splints. I cut down the half, the end, the closed end of the syringe case. I got some catheter tape, taped around all the rough edges, sanded them down, taped them around, and then secured it to the end of the happy tail. And then I realized I just created a protective covering for this happy tail, giving it a chance to heal, just enough time for it to heal, for the antibiotics to work. It wasn't too heavy, so it wasn't going to bother the dog, and nobody had ever thought about that before. And one of the reasons why I think I was able to do it is because of that winding road of a background. Because before I got into veterinary medicine, I actually thought I was going to be an engineer. So I'm constantly loving the idea of trying to find innovative ways of solving simple solutions, especially if it doesn't help the bottom dollar. The other case that I had was blocked cats. Who all has treated a blocked cat before? Everybody, right? Just comes with its territory. And I was working at a different hospital. I had a veterinary technician who was deemed the block cat guy. And I saw him and learned from him. I learned how he used a completely different solution called Walpole's solution. Have y'all ever even heard of that? It's amazing, y'all should get it. And you saw his technique on how to get these stones, get all this gritty material and stuff, and remove it to unblock this cat. And I mention that because you never know where you can get your inspiration from. You never know where you can learn from, okay? And so as a veterinarian, I had to be open-minded and humble enough to know that I don't know everything, and to be able to receive and learn from a veterinary technician who is obviously doing a much, much better job than I am, because he's like a whiz at this. So that being said, that is part of the reason why having diverse perspectives and inclusive environment is so important, because I can tell you right now, there are certain veterinary hospitals where there is a clear hierarchy and you don't get to talk to me about whatever. I'm not one of those people. I believe in learning as many techniques as possible because I love having flexibility. And that flexibility allows that engineering part of my brain to constantly look for innovative solutions.
So we're gonna do another activity. And so we wanna know, did this pop up? We want you to think about an instance where a unique perspective, like what Dr. Glass just shared, led to a better outcome for your programs. So please talk to your neighbors again. Okay, we're going to bring it back in, and we're going to invite you to the microphone if you would like to share an instance where a unique perspective led to a better outcome.
Hello, I'm Tiffany from SVCA of Wake in North Carolina. And we had a unique situation where we had a dog named Lucinda that was just hyperactive. We couldn't get her to do enrichment. She was never focused when we were showcasing her to anyone. And we got in contact with some of our medical team that were of the Spanish-speaking community. Turns out this dog only knew Spanish. So luckily, this other team member was formerly a Spanish-speaking dog trainer, so she knew commands for dog training in Spanish, and she was able to give us the commands, and we were able to actually showcase this dog in all of her glory because she was just in a constant state of anxiety because she couldn't understand what was going on. And once we got that going, she got adopted pretty shortly after.
That's amazing. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Thank you, Tiffany. Anyone else? Oh, awesome.
Sir, you can go on and stand up and just stand behind her.
Yes, Ethan.
Come on, we can form a line.
We like lines.
Hello, I was encouraged to share. So my name is Nicole. I'm from Berkshire Humane Society up in Massachusetts. And I just came to animal welfare in January, actually. So
Welcome.
thank you. But before that, I was in pet retail, right? So a couple weeks after I started my new job at Berkshire Humane Society, my executive director said, Nicole, I've had this idea for 15 years, and I can't get it off the ground. I don't know how to make it happen. So he's like, I've always wanted to work with Meals on Wheels and to be able to provide pet food to shut-ins and other seniors and their pets. So I said, okay, let's make this happen. So I reached out to one of our community groups, Elder Services, who provides the Meals on Wheels. And I said, hey, we just want to supply food. So let's do this. And they're like, okay, so we figured it out. And we pulled in another group called Be Fair that employs disabled and challenged people. So that way they come once a month, they pick up food from me, and they go and deliver it. So that way we supply pet food to all the seniors, and they get to keep their pets in their homes. So it was a brainchild that blossomed into a 3 collaboration thing, and now because of my background, I'm getting a better price per pound on premium food by working with a direct. So, yeah.
That's wonderful.
I'm Edison. I work with Best Friends. I'm in Salt Lake City. One of my coworkers that came in around the time that I did into Salt Lake, her name is Kaylin. She works directly with me. We do cats and dogs. That's all we have there. But her background is she owns horses, and so she knows horses really well. And I've been able to kind of watch her utilize her skills with horses and that calm demeanor that you kind of have to have. But also be like stern and not kind of be bossed around, works really well with dogs. She's able to be stern but not even close to mean, and be able to not get bullied around by those dogs that are like, I can tell you what to do, because she's used to working that with horses that are gonna just kind of like move you around if they don't want to do anything. So it's just really cool to see that perspective.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Edison.
How's it going? I'm Jesse at Big Dog Ranch at Palm Beach. Okay. So we had a very fearful, aggressive dog at our ranch, and we had somebody fostering this dog. And anytime somebody would approach that dog, it would immediately react. It was all out of fear. But this foster, they had a very unique perspective of teaching that dog touch, to be able to touch that hand first, and then eventually teaching that dog the hand approaching you touch as well. So that way anybody who approached the dog, she could immediately just say touch, and the dog would associate that. Rather than biting the hand, the dog would now just go and boop the hand. So I thought it was a very unique perspective.
Yes, I love that.
Thank you.
That's trust building.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's huge trust building. Okay, and I think, well, you'll be our last one.
I'm Allie. I'm from the York County SPCA in Pennsylvania. So we had a kitten that came in whose back legs were paralyzed. Couldn't get around at all, was really weak. So actually our maintenance guy, has no background in vet anything, animal anything. He's like, I'm just gonna create this skateboard for this cat. So he took a board, put some wheels on the bottom and strapped it in. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? He's like, yeah, I'm just helping this cat move around. And he was just zooming all, it was so cool. You can get ideas from anybody. You don't have to be in the field, basically, to know how to help animals. I just thought it was cool.
Exactly. Thank you for that. Thank you, everybody who shared your experiences. These are all prime examples of how, if you are open-minded, judgment-free, actively listening, then you never know what kind of solutions, creative and innovative solutions you can find, even for problems that you thought that you had mastered already.
Yes, and we all can learn from each other. So yes, thank you for sharing. All right, so we're getting a little short on time, so I'm going to just highlight one of these in each section. And so these are actionable strategies for creating inclusive environments. And I'm going to relate this to the stories that Dr. Glass shared. And so you see that there's 3, but I'm going to really focus on encouraging diverse viewpoints through encouraging diverse viewpoints. So when Dr. Glass was talking about the black tail, and if the environment didn't encourage diverse viewpoints, do you think that such a challenge would have been solved? It wouldn't have. And so that's what we're emphasizing in your teams, is really having an environment where people can openly share, because you will find solutions that you may not even have thought of. So really having that inclusive environment encourages innovative ideas. Building a supportive culture. And what I'm going to highlight on this is really with the
Yeah, with the block cat.
The block cat. If there wasn't an established relationship, there wouldn't have been any professional growth in that situation. And when you're interacting with your staff and each other, you have to establish inclusive, positive relationships, because then you can be open to finding solutions. And so
it's definitely something that you have to keep in mind. I think it's very easy to kind of get stuck in the same old routine, but I hope that we are challenging you to rethink that, because there's always room for improvement, no matter what you're doing. Okay.
skip this.
Yeah, we could do that.
All right, so we're going to talk about what are some practical steps that you can do. And one is to make sure you incorporate inclusive policies. And we're going to focus on mainly recruitment and hiring. And Dr. Glass is going to share an example, and then I'm going to follow up.
So I have my own hospital, but I've worked at other places. I work very closely with another hospital right outside of Houston. And it was it was probably one of the best work culture environments that I was ever a part of. And I told the practice manager and the owner of that practice that I am going to it's not borrow, I'm going to steal all of this, soak everything up like a sponge, because I want to be able to replicate this in my own facility. So one of the things that I thought was very innovative is that every single employee, vet and technician alike, is required to complete the 16 personalities test. Has anybody heard about Myers-Briggs or anything like that? Okay, great. If you haven't done it for yourself, I highly encourage that you do it. And then once you complete the test, I highly encourage that you retake the test about every 5 years, because you should not be the same person that you were when you were 18, when you're 50. So there should be some growth. And so one of the things that is so great about this hospital is that not only does everybody is required to take the test, but afterwards, the results are shared with each other. It's posted in the break room. It's fully transparent. And so now everybody understands essentially a little bit more of how their colleague works, how they interact with their environment, how do they communicate. Maybe, and it helps to, with that transparency, it helps to decrease misinformation and taking things the wrong way, okay? Because I may say something to Dawn, and if she is what I consider abrasive, and I look and I'm like, oh, she's the general. Okay, so that's not, she's not dismissing it, she's just communicating it in a very straightforward way that I, as an introspective person, may be a little bit more soft-spoken about, right? So it helps with that team building. It helps create that trust as well. Now, another thing that he does, this practice manager, is he takes it a step further. He then categorizes each of these personalities into different groups. He assigns them a color. And then as he is doing the recruitment, he is looking for people to help balance out the team. So he is already able to look at the team at a glance and say, you know, I have a lot of red, but I don't have a lot of yellow. So as I am looking and hiring, I'm gonna start filtering and trying to get some more yellow personalities in here because I don't want the 2 yellow people to feel isolated amongst this team. Has anybody ever thought about approaching recruitment that way? Isn't that amazing? So simple, so straightforward. And so by doing something like this, of course it's going to take training, it's going to take experience in order to do that, whether it's how to get information from a resume, from the interview, phone or working interview, or their probationary period, whatever. But having that type of foresight is what is going to help develop that work culture and also help your team members feel heard. They're not going to feel dismissed. They're going to feel as though they are seen and that they are also understood.
Absolutely. And so my example is I never hire anyone who's just like me. I purposely look for someone who's different. And so my recent hire is in the room, and he's in the room, and he has different strengths than I do. And he is such a great public speaker. I'm not the best, but he can speak on a dime. I'm very much a process thinker. And so if Sam, hi Sam, Sam was a process thinker as much as I am, it's gonna slow down the process, right? And so having that balance is so advantageous. And a lot of times, this is why we emphasize it, a lot of times people hire people who are like them. You want diversity on your team.
And that diversity is more than just the outer shell, okay? We're not talking, yes, ethnicity is a factor in diversity, but that's not the only thing. We just talked about personality differences, which kind of goes into neurodiversity. People want to often associate neurodiversity with only people on the spectrum, but that's not really what neurodiversity is about. It's about how the difference in how people think, right? There's also going to be difference in cultural awareness, difference in religion, in socioeconomic background, generational, how a baby boomer thinks is going to be completely different about how a millennial thinks, especially when it comes to something like pet ownership or veterinary medicine, or why would I even adopt a pet when I'm already retired, you know, and all that other kind of stuff. But the thing that is also very important to remember is that don't be scared of being uncomfortable, okay? Because just because somebody is going to be different than you doesn't mean that you are setting yourself up for failure, because at the end of the day, the common ground is going to be your common goals and core values. And if you don't have core values for your organization, I highly recommend that you do sit down and establish them, especially if you have a team. Establish these core values within your organization so that it becomes essentially your moral compass. Whenever you feel as though you're veering off the path, you come right back to those core values.
Okay, so since we want to save time for questions, we have 10 minutes left. Really just going to emphasize really fast that you train your leaders on DEIB principles. And the one thing that I want to emphasize is that everyone is a leader, whether they have a title associated with or not. So that you should be training your entire organization on those principles.
And someone did mention, and that was in public health, mention data-driven decision-making. I think that this is absolutely phenomenal to do, because how else are you going to be able to determine how impactful you are as an organization, how much growth you've had, if you don't essentially do a self-audit, not only for yourself, but for how you are engaging with your community. How well are you meeting those core values and that mission that you have? So by being able to take this data, you're able to not only identify disparities, maybe you have been having a telescopic view of the community, and there's a whole other subsection that has gone essentially untreated and underserved. And by collecting that data, you're able to then make a pivot. You're able to make that audit, improve, and then you're constantly repeating that step. Okay, so in conclusion, thank you once again, everybody, for coming out this early morning, for actually participating and being engaged. But we really hope that you can, that you are starting to recognize, even if you thought that it was, one of those politically charged things. We are in the state of Florida, but to actually see the value that diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging has in an organization beyond just ethnicity, okay? It's about cultural awareness, it's about community engagement, it's about empowering your staff in order to be literally all that they can be. And by embracing these diverse perspectives, you are going to inherently become better at solving the problems that you face, whether they're big or small, whether they are a day-to-day thing or something that was a mission, a goal that was 15 years in the making, and all it took was somebody to join the team in January in order to help make it possible. Utilizing the data in order to essentially do a self-audit, fact-check, pivot, dust yourself off, do it again, and constantly repeating that step in that cycle, because there's always room for improvement. And finally, treasure the unicorns that are among you, okay? They are rare, they bring rainbows and glitter, and because of that, they are going to enhance your organizations in ways that you never thought and dreamed of. Just continue to give them their support, because they know that they're unicorns too.
So now we want to open it up for questions. And so again, we would like for you to invite you to go to the mic for any questions that you may have.
Thank you again.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Roxanne. I work at the Salt Lake City Best Friends Center as well. My question is, coming from a perspective of leadership, how can you encourage a culture of trying new things and sharing your unique ideas if higher leadership is really concerned about mistakes and keeping things consistent and following policies and making sure that things are getting done correctly, but also wanting people to feel safe to try new things and bring their unique ideas?
I will talk from my experience within a clinical setting. I literally just had a conversation with, we had a very, very tough, that was a few days ago. It was Tuesday of this week. We had a lot of heat stroke in cases because of the hurricane. A lot of people were without power, and in just one day, I had 6 heat stroke cases, okay? And it was very exhausting. It was mentally taxing. And as the leader, I took the step and I said, listen, I know that I'm worn out. We are all a team. And I feel as though I'm not firing on all cylinders. So I'm telling everybody right now, if you have an idea, speak up. I want you to speak up. And by doing that, there were people who were like, ooh, maybe I could do this. Maybe I can hang an IV. Maybe And I said, fine, go for it. it also takes change and vulnerability with leadership, okay? So I would challenge you to present to the leadership, even if it is a special project, okay, where maybe you have a very particular client who is very open to new ideas, has a lot of trust in you and in the facility, and wants to help y'all grow and learn, maybe start out with them, okay? Maybe start out with the patients that are ideal patients for whatever idea that you have, and then use that as kind of like your test model. And once you kind of get all of that ironed out, and you may not get it completely ironed out, but if you can start to show the success of that idea, then it becomes a lot more palatable for people who are a lot more resistant to change. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and
okay.
I was gonna just piggyback off of that. And I was like, Roxanne, it's all about approach. And I was gonna say pilot, talk about piloting something and giving that and showing the outcomes from that pilot. And then there could be potentially a shift. But keep showing up as you, like I've talked to you before, and just keep having those type of conversations.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I know both of you come from more an employee-based organizations. Our little team that was discussing, we're all volunteers. And I know a lot of these principles apply to volunteers, but do you have any additional suggestions or ideas for people that can come in and then they can just as easily leave because they're not, they're not dependent on their income for what they're doing for these types of ideas?
I can kind of understand the volunteer aspect because in veterinary medicine, we also have like externships and shadowing opportunities and things like that. So we are constantly welcoming volunteers into the hospital. I would say having clear expectations as the volunteer and the organization that is receiving you of what your duties are, and also share what your interests are and saying, listen, yes, I want to volunteer, but I'm really passionate about this particular thing. Does this seem, are you interested in this idea? Okay, and if not, so you can still show up, but you can also get a very early sense that it may not be the most ideal space for you, and to continue to find somebody that will be able to allow you to have that growth as well, because you are bringing something valuable even as a volunteer.
Okay, so it looks like our time is up. So we want to quickly share 2 books with you. The Boldly Inclusive Leader, as well as Inclusion on Purpose. You can purchase both of those on Amazon. In addition, for anyone who had questions, I saw you were trying to go to the mic, feel free to come up and talk to us after. So we thank you for attending Unicorns Among Us.
Thank you.